How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lo4f, and today I'm going to go and do a mission called Southern Bridge. It's on the other map by the lake, and yeah, it's building the bridge. It's kind of near the railway bridge, and then you can also sort of cross there, but I don't know, I just sort of want to get it done, have it as an option for a route. It'll open up, certainly if you want to use highway trucks, it kind of, I believe now you could drive from like gateway to gateway pretty much with a highway vehicle. So yeah, the first part of the mission, leave the garage on what's this called, Mountain Ridge. I'm going over to there to grab 2 lots of metal beams, and then I also need 2 lots of cement, which I'm going to grab from that warehouse just before I go to the gateway on the right hand side. There is cement on the second map, but it's at the warehouse at site in the top left of the map, and where I'm going is basically the bottom right. Whichever gateway you come out of, you're gonna kind of have to go the opposite way to where the bridge is anyway. It's not the end of the world, because you could follow either the road or the rail tracks kind of back down to the other side of the southern bridge. But yeah, I just figured like I wanted to do it this way. It was also a good chance to take this thing out. I was sort of getting around to doing a video with it. Was it yesterday? I ended up setting up, I was going to do the plane one where you got to take that to the movie set, and I set up, I believe, a Zix for it, and then I kind of ran out of time for doing that, so then I set up this to do this mission. Yeah, and then I had to go, like, my brother got back, I was chatting to him for a bit, and I just kind of like ran out of time of doing this one as well. And then I also got distracted. This vehicle has a bit of an odd quirk that I quite like. It's not really going to show up too well at the minute with a trailer on. I'll save it really because I want to do a gameplay and review video on this, preferably sooner rather than later. Just been one of those weeks again. But yeah, if you haven't got a trailer, as you kind of like when you're in high gear and you're driving along, it's normal high gear. It doesn't sort of auto Jeff special, which for those of you that sort of, if you've not seen the videos that far back, there's a guy called Jeff that just figured out if you sort of slam the truck back in high gear after you're in auto, like the high end of the high range gearbox, 7th or 8th gear, and then put it back into high gear, with some vehicles you kind of get, yeah, we ended up calling it the Jeff Special because it was kind of like a crazy nitrous version of a high gear. This ticks along as normal in high gear, but when I was coming out the garage and you turn sharply left or right, it's almost as if the weight shifts a bit in this. You can see it happening a little bit there. You can see my truck starting to drift and the trailer going. It certainly does it a lot more obviously like when you've not got the trailer on. I like it. I ended up spending hours coming out the garage, drifting, and then drifting that corner I just went around and crashing and all sorts. Yeah, again, I like it. It's a bit of an odd thing where when it sort of boosts the power up into Jeff Special when you drift, which is a bit of a unique one, and for that alone, I like it. This is just an example. Like, I wasn't even paying attention at the minute. You'll see why when I started tipping, it was only like about now I started trying to fire panic winches. So I just quit and reload before I even got into it. And that was yesterday. I think I got this footage tonight. Yeah, that was just to show you a good example though. When I came off the road and driving down here, I was able to stay in high gear all the way down here until eventually it was my fault as well. Again, I was talking to my brother, I wasn't really paying too much attention. I was supposed to cut off to the right just after this next waypoint, and I carried on going straight, which was kind of like, damn, I'll just try and keep over to the right hand side of the road, keep the power going, and then yeah, I wasn't looking at the TV, I clipped the rock and started tipping. But then as I reset the mission, I ended up just starting at the garage again. Basically just started the whole mission again. Yeah, this time when I was driving through this section, the high gear just, not to say it couldn't cut it, but I ran out of grip really, and then it started getting bogged down and I had to go down into the auto gears. And I am now, but yeah, it just, I do like this truck. I've had a little go with it again. Just the drifting thing alone is a bit of a quirk, but I like that. I like the fact that at the minute I've got the crane, the sideboard, and the trailer, which, as Justin Lynch was saying, there is actually more vehicles these days than like it used to be. A bit of a rarer quality back in the day. But nonetheless, it's still nice that it has, so it means you can run quite a lot of different setups. It's always nice to run like, the ramped flatbed drives me mad, but between that and the sideboard, you've got six slots of cargo, and I can have the crane, and yeah, it just works out nicely. Here, it's probably a good example cutting through here as like the vehicle's limitations. Just not having any power to the front wheels is like a bit of a big game changer in this game, really. Even like the way you drive, you just have to do it completely differently. Like I'm just used to, as you're driving, if you've got all-wheel drive, I'm aware obviously the majority of the power is going to be getting applied at the back. Yeah, that's what she said. But just, I kind of, as you're trying to like squirrel around like down the off-roading lanes and all the rest of it, I'm almost assuming that my front axles, because they're steerable, they're kind of like, in my head, the dominant axle that I'm thinking, right, I'm pointing it that way, I'm doing this. And even if the back end, like if you're just trying to smash your way through like a muddy patch, the Western Star twin steer thing was really good for this back in the day, even before it had all-wheel drive. You can kind of punch your way through, and if you can get the front of your truck out the other side of the bogginess, then that'll, like, if it's powered, it will kind of claw its way in and help get your back end out as well. But yeah, with a vehicle like this, you have to kind of rethink it and just like keep telling yourself, or for me anyways, like the power's only coming from the back, and you've got to sort of treat the whole front of the truck, I don't know, like a shopping trolley. There's no power to it, you're kind of controlling it from the back, and yeah, you've got to sort of swing the front round. But again, like if you're trying to steer left or right kind of to avoid a path or a rock or whatever, you're sort of hoping that your back's pushing enough but the front's digging in enough, because if you're steering, it's like, it's just a different feeling in this game, like steering with no power to the axles versus like they're actually putting some effort in themselves. Yeah, and you can see now, like I was getting caught up a bit, kept firing winches out. Thankfully there was at least like one immovable tree each time I needed to. Worst case, I'd have had to get the goddamn horse out, send him in, and use him as a mobile winch, but I didn't have to. And just throwing it out there as well, I mean, this might be the first video I've made with this truck. I kind of missed the boat quite badly with getting a video on this truck and the Jack of all Trades, or Jack of all Trades DLC they've added for the tyres. But yeah, I've kind of mentioned them already in the live stream and that. I showed them off a bit in there. I still want to get a gameplay and review video done, particularly on this it's Kenworth, isn't it? W990. Yeah, get that done sooner rather than later. But yeah, those tyres, like the sets, I really do like them. I think above anything, they look more textured, and I don't know, they make the vehicles just stand out better. It looks more realistic. It's not even like, it's not that the tyres before felt unrealistic. It's just now you have this to compare to. They just look the equivalent of, like, I don't know, back on like the iPhones back in the day or whatever, it says something like HD textures and it upgrades everything that's a bit nicer and clearer. And yeah, it's sort of, World of Tanks is a good example, like way back, if you kind of look at old footage, you can see how bland everything is in the map, and it was great back then. But then when you actually get like the more modern updates that sort of neaten it all up a bit, you suddenly realise how kind of less realistic it looked beforehand. And yeah, coming over to this factory for 2 lots of cement. I didn't realise until I was here that there's actually limited cement here. Yeah, I just lift the Lo4f out of the way. The game, for some reason, look, it let me pack 1 cargo, which I clicked there, but then it auto removed like the menu, and then I pressed the wrong button because I was just assuming I could click twice and load 2 lots of cement. God knows what it was doing. Yeah, bit of faffing around, had to relift the loaf because I kind of accidentally disconnected the winch. But yeah, got them 2, got the loaf packed on top. There is a burlap abandoned there. And then yeah, again, setting off a little bit of off-roading. You can see that was more me, by the way. I let off the accelerator there, and I probably should have just kept it pinned, really. It's funny though, because this vehicle is, as near as makes no difference, impossible to stall when you've got just the truck on its own. There's no crane or anything like that. I mean, it might be stallable, but I've bounced off things. I was near enough going backwards, and the power still, like the high gear was wheel spinning, and then it'd get back up to speed and fire itself off down the road. That's part of the reason why it was either yesterday, I think it was the day before, I didn't make a video, because I was in the middle of making a video, and then I just started drifting this thing around for bloody ages and messing around, and then yeah, I completely like lost track of time. And I was like, okay, it's thrown me as well recently that it keeps getting dark so late. I prefer it like that, but just it felt like only a month or two ago. It'd start getting light, and I'm like, all right, it's 4 or 5 in the morning. I need to get on with like editing and everything, and then now, yeah, it's like, oh, it's getting light. Oh shit, it's 8:30, especially if it's like a cloudy, crappy day here. It doesn't even start getting light until it feels about 9 in the morning. Yeah, this thing it actually clawed its way out of that next bit of like off-roading back to the road pretty decently. It didn't really, other than that one bit where I like with the accelerator, and then it was kind of moaning for a couple of seconds whilst the rear kind of got its power down. And then yeah, for this map, this side of it, that's the route I'm taking. It's just following the road all the way down to the southern bridge. Part of the reason, there was multiple reasons really why I ended up choosing this mission. I wanted the bridge in the end. I'm not sure whether I'm going to, when I tow that plane trailer, if I'm going to go... See, when, like I said, I originally set up for the plane trailer, and I was umming and ahhing with the concept of, shall I take this truck with the saddle high and do the trailer that way? But I was thinking, there's no way this is going to, like, handle the route, particularly not the sort of route I had in mind. Like, I took a pretty off-roady route on the live stream, but I had an age-old Dolphin, and that thing was... yeah, very good, so I kind of knew I could push it. This thing is going to kind of be the opposite. As much as I do like it and all the rest of it, it's not bad for what it is, but it is basically a highway truck. It's better than just a highway truck, because it is like the chassis is decently sized, and it's got not bad sized tyres and blah blah blah, but... So it's not like TranStar levels of like highway only, but yeah, it's just without that, like I wouldn't bank on it going on like any major off-routing roads. You can see like back on the first map, just cutting across that little swampy section, it wasn't too happy about. I tried to drop it into auto there. It was just, it wouldn't have mattered, like I still ran over that rock anyway, but it was just a bad time to choose auto instead of in the high gears. Yeah, long highway driving, that's like I say, a couple of reasons I chose this mission. So I started planning my route, and that's why I then thought maybe if I build the bridge I could use this to do the plane mission that at least gets me some way back. But yeah, then for whatever reason I ended up setting up as a Zik 605R, but then I ran out of time. Then I decided to do this mission to build the bridge anyway. And yeah. See, motoring along here though, the second half of the mission, that's another reason, is like, the first map was a good quick test of like doing a bit of off-roading, not only to cut across the road, but also when I went and got the cement. This map is kind of like basically off highway driving, and it was a good chance to see, does this thing, it motors along nicely in high gear, but most will, because high gear is just a pretty nice gear for putting the power down. Yeah, that's why I keep messing around so much with it in like auto at the minute, just to see how well it's climbing up to 8th. I don't know if I ever seen 8th. Got 7th and that, it was not too bad considering I'm towing a trailer and a lot of cargo, and I've got a crane, sideboard, loaf, etc. Yeah, not the worst. But it's more the game seems a little bit restrictive, like it's a little bit moany this year on letting you climb up the auto gears as much. And I think at some point, yeah, there's a yard coming up. I couldn't resist, I'm flying along, I was like, sod it. I'm going in, I'm ramming it. And look at the loaf, is an absolute goddamn professional. I start to tip, see, he headbutts the telegraph pole, and he saves my bacon. I've mentioned it before. He's a goddamn professional, you definitely need to get yourself a loaf. But yeah, that is one of the many talents of a loaf. That was just a good example of it happening, like, I was guaranteed going to flip there. And if the loaf wasn't packed, I would have rolled, because I just wouldn't have had enough height for the to bounce off the telegraph pole. But yeah, that's just one of the reasons you get yourself a loaf. And you see, if you tip there, not only that, just after I did it, the saving cogs happened, meaning I wouldn't have had time to quit and reload. It would have saved just after I tipped, meaning I would have had to have rescued this and loaded all the cargo the old-fashioned way, and then it'll start saying impossible to pack, and then the crane will be weak and drop to the ground, and yeah, it'll turn a 2-minute rescue into a 4-hour mission. So, but the loaf, see, the amount of time the loaf has saved me by bouncing off trees and telegraph poles like that when I'm about to tip. He's yeah, he's good. He's earned his keep. He earned his bread. Yeah, mission done. It pays 3,800. I assume the game thinks because it gives you a bridge that it shouldn't need to pay you as much. But I don't really, like, you've basically employed me to bring the stuff to the bridge. Just because you're building a bridge, that's not my gain. So it should pay more is what I'm saying. It should be like an $8,000 mission or something. But nonetheless, we've got the bridge built, so it's more options. There's the railway bridge is theoretically possible with narrower vehicles. But yeah, for the majority, like the Zix 605R is a prime example. When I get the aeroplane, it's not going to be happy about it. Yeah, the views here are quite nice as well. There's the railway thing in the background. There's another goddamn horse chilling. I think he's the one who went and got the mission, so I knew what to do. But yeah, anyway, that's about it for today, though. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Get yourself a loaf, because he's a beast, and I'll be back soon.